Hello, everyone. I'm Robyn Grable, the founder of Talents Ascend and the Ascend Collective, and your host for Ascending Beyond Barriers. Welcome. Ascending Beyond Barriers is an inspiring podcast dedicated to showcasing the remarkable journeys of small business founders who have faced and overcome significant challenges on their path to success. Each episode delves into the personal stories of entrepreneurs from diverse backgrounds, highlighting their unique experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Today, I'm honored to welcome Jeanette Lombardo. She is the CEO of the Farmer Veteran Coalition, leading efforts to help veterans transition into agriculture. She also co-founded Global Water Innovations, advancing sustainable water solutions, and has served on national committees with the USDA, EPA, and the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. A past president of California Women for Agriculture and American Agro Women, Jeanette is a recognized leader bridging agriculture, water, and veteran advocacy. Jeanette, thank you so much for being here. It's just an honor to really talk with you and have you on the podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So I'm just excited. I grew up on a farm. I didn't farm but we certainly helped out with the farmers that did, and certainly saw the hard work. So it is an admirable profession, but certainly one. I was just talking to another veteran yesterday whose family farms in Iowa, and just talking about how hard the work is. But how did you get started in all of this?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me, Robyn. And so, I was born into it, actually.
Okay.
So my father was in the Air Force. I was born in Wiesbaden, Germany. My family were multi-generation farmers in the northwestern part of Pennsylvania. The closest city would have been Erie. So lots of snowfall.
Yes.
We had cattle, dairy cows, obviously. It was, and so graduated, went to Edinburgh University there, and the transfer, my dad was an aerospace engineer and transferred to California and finished up there, got married. I moved all over the country. I married an Army lieutenant in the Army. We went to Fort Campbell, in Tennessee. So Tennessee, New York, New Mexico, Michigan, Colorado, back out to California, and then now to Texas. So I've got to see a lot of different types of agriculture all over the country, and I love it. I love it all. So
Well, thank you for being a military spouse. That is another highly unrecognized profession because it's really, people don't take enough appreciation for military spouses and all the moves and all the things that you're doing. So,
but I have to say something about that.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer married, but I will tell you, this is some things you're very absolutely correct that people don't realize is that when I was married, my husband served in Desert Storm and, in the Gulf War. And there was times, when I was pregnant with my first daughter, we received a letter from the Persian Gulf War Syndrome saying that children of veterans that served in the area where he had served were having children with missing limbs and reverse organs. So there's that side of it, the whole PACT Act side of it too, where you have some, you might have some contamination, some toxic exposure that has affected health and stuff. So, and the health of the children that they bear. So that's a whole part of it that they don't think about. They think of the veteran, but not how it affects the whole family.
Very good point, Jeanette. Thank you for bringing that up. It really is true. I mean, we don't think about the families enough anyway, but when it comes to things like that, it's just even more important. Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for bringing that up. All right. So cattle, how did you start the Farmer Veteran Coalition? Because I want to talk a lot about this because I just watched a documentary about, and I'm going to mess it up, but let's start with the Farmer Veteran Coalition.
So for 24 years, I was a banker. I did agricultural lending.
Oh, okay.
And in a couple different states. And so, and I ended that. I actually had a farmer in Visalia, California, that committed suicide, and that he left 7 kids
Wow.
and a lot of cows for his wife
Wow.
to deal with. And so, at that point, that was during the downturn in 2008 to 2012 when we had that big economic downturn.
Mhm.
Um, and I decided to leave um, banking, which was hard because I was at a higher level at that point. And I
Sure.
started my own company called California Food and Agribusiness Advocates. And
Okay.
so I advocated for a lot of things. This is at the time that I was president for California, state president for California Women for Agriculture. So mostly water, crop protection, trade issues, and that all this stuff was part of the journey that built, where I was heading. During that time, they passed the Groundwater Sustainability Act in California in 2014 and 2016. All the basins had to come up with plans. So we realized we had an issue with water, and was a co-founder of Global Water Innovations at the same time,
Wow.
and that's been running for about 8 years now. I'm still involved in
Congratulations.
that as the chief
Wow.
strategic officer. Um, and then in 2020, I got a random call from a recruiter from Corn Ferry saying, "Hey, there's position," and it was just perfect timing because COVID had just hit.
Mm.
Uh, a lot of the meetings that I went to and represented clients at weren't happening, or they were happening virtually. We were going. A lot of people were getting tired of doing the water work to put up a sustainable groundwater sustainability plan, and they were moving forward with adjudication. So that everybody was lawyering up, and so I'm like, you know what? Let me look
The
at this.
sign
Well,
is there. Yeah.
there was 300 candidates for the job.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so it was a 7-step interview process before the decision was made, and then trying to move during COVID was
Wow.
another thing in itself. But
Right.
and then I started in July of 2020 in Davis, California, and a month later there was major fires in Napa and Sonoma County, which surround Davis, and we were evacuated. So literally, I was throwing the corporate seal in my car and evacuating. So
Oh my gosh.
but then we survived. We got through COVID. The board, we knew we sort of needed to move out of California. When I started, we had 17,000 members, and now we're at 55,000 members. And I'm
Wow.
working on year 6 right now. So we needed to be in the central time zone,
Mm.
um, because by the time we got in the office in California, they the day was half
Half the
over
day was over.
on
Yeah.
East Coast, and so yeah, so we and also during COVID, San Francisco had emptied out and come down that 80 corridor, and it just jacked up all the rents. So a lot of
Yeah.
our staff were getting turnover because people couldn't afford to uh, live there anymore. So
Yeah.
we needed to do something, and we were looking at Kansas City, and we were looking at Texas. I couldn't get any staff to move with me to Kansas City, and so we decided on Texas. It was our biggest chapter. We have 5,500 members here in Texas, and then it was finding the city in Texas, right? So
Yeah.
um, Waco was perfect because the Texas Farm Bureau is headquartered out of Waco.
Okay.
And there's 2 regional VA offices. One is in Houston, and one is in Waco.
Okay.
And so that was perfect. Then we have Baylor University, which they have a food and poverty collaborative that we work with a lot. Texas A&M is just an hour down the road.
Yeah.
So Waco it's called the heart of Texas. It's sort of right in the middle, and you could get pretty much anywhere within a few hours. And Texas is a huge state,
Yes.
so to go to El Paso would take me all day probably, but for the most part, everything that you need is pretty local.
Wow. So how does the coalition work? Tell us about the coalition. How do you help veterans?
There's so many ways, and we're expanding every day, but I'll
Yay.
I'll try to hit on some of the good stuff. Um, we when service members come out of their service, it's very hard transition. We see suicide rates jump at the 5-month mark. A
Sure.
lot of times they'll take a job, the first job they get, because they don't want to be a statistic,
Right.
right? They don't want to
And
be
they
a
got to pay
homeless
the bills.
veteran. Yeah, they got bills to pay, and then they get in a job that can't compare to what they did in the service. So if you think about it, when you're in the service, the first there's a camaraderie, and there's you're in charge of a lot of people or equipment, and in life or death situations, and it's hard to find a regular job in the real world that matches that.
Yeah.
And but agriculture provides those challenges, and it tests all, and a lot of the skills that they have in service transition over, like the computer skills with all our climate smart ag and precision ag and drone flying that we're doing, robotics. It's just such a great time to be in agriculture. And their leadership is just incredible. Even we're seeing it with disaster recovery in rural areas, and
Wow.
leadership that's needed in rural America. So but not everybody has the risk tolerance to be a farmer. So we offer ag careers for those. We have a plug-in on our website that want to do that. And then we also have where we work with corporations like Kubota, one of our anchor sponsors. They need
Nice.
1,800 diesel mechanics across the country. And so we work with adult ed community colleges, and we set up programs, a 12-week, 8-step certification programs to get them through that and get them jobs and placed in jobs. So and the people that want to start farms, we help with everything from figuring out, first of all, the resume, how you convert that over, because you got to go get a loan at some point, and they've got to know you've got the skill set to do that.
Mhm.
We help them with crop plans. We help them with land access.
Wow.
Sometimes that means leasing. Sometimes that means, capital raise, like helping them get their beginning farmer and rancher loans.
Sure.
Um, we help them with, when they grow their product, technical assistance on figuring out their soil and their water and what to grow. And then the markets, we have our Homegrown by Heroes label to help them market. And then we have, we have our Market Maker, which is an online sales platform where they can sell direct to consumers. That we offer all of this for free. Membership to FEC is free. We have a call center with a 800 number so people can call in.
Wow.
We have our behavioral health department, which does sort of like this training we're doing right now. I said we have training happening in Montana right now that's holistic. So we work with veteran benefits, first of all,
Okay.
to make sure that they're accessing everything that they've earned. That will help them with their business plan, especially
Yeah.
medical insurance, which is a big line item in anyone's budget.
Yeah.
So, and then we work with, we do what was called Wellness Recovery Action Plan by Advocates for Human Potential. And it's
Okay.
really not just for veterans, it's for anyone in rural America who's been through a natural disaster. It helps
Mm.
you, if you've been in a tornado, a hurricane, a fire, um, you know, flooding,
It's
you
trauma.
know what it's like the next time it rains hard, or the next time there's a chopper
Mhm.
in the air dropping flame retardant, right? So it's like
Yeah.
this helps you have a plan, so you remain in control. So we do a little bit of that. We have a lot of farmers growing a lot of stuff, and so we have huge food insecurity around our military bases, 24% food insecurity.
Yes.
So a lot of them sell and or donate. We have some folks that are 100% disabled that, you still need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And so they find joy in growing even in their own backyard and donating the food to their military communities. So disaster relief is an area where, especially since the flooding here in Texas, we've decided we need to take more of an involvement in. Before, we were involved more with preparation, like, how to prepare for the flood. We've even incorporated that into our fellowship fund, which I'll get into in a minute. But now, and we've done a little bit with relief, like helping people fill out applications for disaster relief through the USDA. But also now we're having the chapter members help with recovery, like going and helping rebuild fences and doing cleanup. And so we're developing a program around that as well. But, there's a lot of barriers to entry when you want to start a farm. And so one of the things we've done is our fellowship fund. So about every year we give away about $500,000 in mini grants for them to buy the equipment that they need to start. And it's just amazing, some of the stories and pictures and that we get to hear with that. And then additionally, thanks to Kubota, we give out 5 tractors a year through their Geared to Give program. And we'll be doing that here in just a couple of weeks, right in the beginning of October at their Kubota Connect dealer meeting in Fort Worth. But so then we have our chapter support division, which supports, we have 26 chapters now across the United States.
Okay.
We've divided the country into regions, and each region, the people grow the same crops. Typically, they have the same pest pressure, natural disaster, trade issues. So it really works good as far as having targeted technical assistance to specific areas. And then we have folks here that just support the executive boards of all the chapters in their efforts at the grassroots level.
Wow.
And then we actually do, in our fund development department, we do some act as a fiscal agent for some of our chapters that are new, because they're all volunteer. Okay. And we help them with grants in their local communities. And then just this year, we started government affairs. So we opened a virtual office in DC, and we try to go back there every other month and get to know the different. We have had a little bit of turnover in the USDA this year. So we try to get to know some of the new people, let them know the issues that we're having and how they might be able to help us. And I do a little bit of that with my USDA appointment this year to NIFA. And so it's a beginning farmer and rancher advisory board. So we look at the barriers to entry and how to change those so that we can have more farmers, because the average age of farmers is older. And we need these new guys. Of all the farmers in the United States, veterans, or those currently actively that have farms, make up about 10% of all farmers. So it's a good concentration. Yeah. So they have built into the Farm Bill some programs specifically for veterans, and they've been utilized a lot. So we have some great stories coming out about that.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow. There's a lot in there. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I feel like really proud that we're having this conversation, because there's so much impact that you're having in multiple ways that people need to hear this. People need to hear it. I think the younger generations too take for granted where food comes from. They just don't know the hard work it takes to grow food and the struggles that farmers have. Now, you talked about veterans and the suicide rate, but you also talked about farmers and suicide rate. So how are you making sure that those two things don't collide? Because it is an issue on both sides of what you're trying to work through. So is there a specific thing that you kind of look for or do to work through that?
So you're right. Farmers have a higher suicide rate than veterans, actually.
Wow.
And we've put them both together.
Right.
And then it goes back to the statistic I just said, which came from the 2022 USDA National Ag Statistical Survey that was done. where you have 10% of your farmers that are veterans. And those are only the ones that answered the survey. That we
Okay.
think that number is higher,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And we have 55,000 of those. So
Wow.
we incorporate behavioral health into every programming that we do. And
Okay.
that is because, there's not a veteran that you talk to that hasn't lost somebody to suicide, known somebody. The numbers have gone down the way they were 22 folks a day, and now we're down to 17.
Mm.
So that's, I
That's
guess,
good.
promising, but still way too many.
Yeah.
So just really trying to work on how to deal with that, and looking at, we work a little bit with VA on alternative medicine. So part of our behavioral health
Mm.
department is also what's called FEC cares. So veterans like to help veterans, and we have a lot of veterans that do equine therapy, goat therapy, pasture walks, and we're developing a program now to help them out. We're using the Market Maker Directory, which was developed by the University of Illinois 30 years ago. This is where
Oh,
our homegrown by heroes people are selling direct to consumers. It also lists like all the U-Picks, all the farmers markets that are in every state. And so now we're using that directory to showcase these FEC Cares farms so that our partners like Wounded Warrior, Combined Arms, they can
yeah.
go there, and they could, if somebody needs therapy in their state, they can give them several examples, and they can help them. So what we help the FEC Care farmers do is their business plan, understand their liability, figuring out their marketing, their risk management. Because if you have people up on horses, there's issues, especially if they're in recovery from some sort of injury
Yeah.
or long-term chronic injury. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So is the directory, because you talked about food insecurities for military families, which is something that just absolutely breaks my heart. Is the directory, is there any way for people like me to go to the directory and see who we could buy food from the homegrown by heroes and give it to military families? Is there a way to do that through your program?
Oh, we haven't thought about that, but yeah, anyone can go onto Market Maker. You just type food Market Maker. You can select your state, and then there's affiliations. You can click on FEC, and also there's one for Homegrown by Heroes,
Okay.
and then it will show you the farmers in those areas. So we're
Okay.
we're working. We've just started populating that particular map, so it doesn't have all 55,000 farmers on it yet. But we're getting there. Every day that goes by, we're getting more farmers on there because they have to build a profile, and they
Okay.
they put a little bit about their farm and what
Sure.
they're selling, and so we can only go so far. They got to go and fill it
Absolutely.
out the rest. But yeah, so they're doing that, and that would be one way that people could help too. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
No, we'll definitely check that out. But it'd be great to if there was a way to know where a military family is in need. And probably
so
we could
we
do that through maybe Combined Arms. Maybe that's a
well, Armed Forces YMCA might be someone you would want to
okay.
have a conversation with too, because
Okay.
they have 8 food banks at
Um,
bases across the country,
okay.
and we're working with them on some
Awesome.
grants to try to purchase some food and
Yeah.
actually doing a community kitchen, because part of
Nice.
the issues around the bases is there may not be jobs for the wives, or they may have
Absolutely.
kids, and so they can't find daycare. So one of
Right.
the programs we were looking at doing was a kitchen where they could create stuff to sell at a farmer's market, and there was daycare provided while they were working in the kitchen on their
Yeah.
businesses. So a lot of value added or cottage industry type of products.
Okay.
So that was one of the things we were looking at doing,
Yeah.
just trying to be innovative,
Hmm.
not only solving, you can give people food, but you're trying to solve the long-term problem as well.
Absolutely. What's the saying? I can give you a fish and you'll eat for a day, but I can teach you to fish and you'll eat for a lifetime. So yeah, that's
Yep.
amazing. Well, I was going to ask you about the documentary that I watched was about farming and how we're kind of making erosion in the land, but we don't have time to get into that, unfortunately, because I want to end with really what is your best advice for somebody who's looking to go into agriculture? What would you say to them? What do they kind of have to know about themselves to really be successful in agriculture? Because it is not easy.
No, it is not. You have to really have the fortitude and the grit to do it, and to realize that you're not going to have success right out of the bat. The USDA considers a beginning farmer and rancher the first 10 years of their operation, and we divide that down into increments. Like 1 through 3 is like you're planning, you're still doing some off farm income, and you're figuring out your land and your water and what you're going to grow, and you're getting the equipment you need to grow that, right, and establishing your markets. And then there's 4 through 6, which is, there's this evolution that happens from like a farm stand at the end of your driveway to maybe a CSA to the farmer's market. Then you're selling online. And then there's like this food safety thing that has to happen for you to go up further in procurement. Wow. So if you wanted to do hospitals or do, to your schools or restaurants, so we have our Homegrown by Hero Retail Ready program that we're launching in 2026. So it helps them through figuring out the label and what needs to be on it and the daily food allowance and all of that and the ingredient list and the branding and labeling that has to happen and the whole distribution. It's hard when you're small to a medium-sized farmer. We all start off small, and then there some that will grow. We have a lot that are larger and exporting. So it's like they're all in different phases, and we have to meet them where they're at and try to take them to that next level.
Wow. Amazing. Wow. Well, I could probably talk to you for another hour, but unfortunately we're out of time. Jeanette, thank you so much for all that you're doing, because it truly is on many, many multiple levels important, and the impact that you're having is just tremendous. So thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all your work with us. And I look forward to being involved, because again, like I said, food insecurities for military families just absolutely breaks my heart, and it shouldn't be happening. Suicide rates as well just should not be happening. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with us.
Well, and thank you for having me. As a nonprofit, we don't have much money for advertising, and it shows like this that help us get the word out. Absolutely. So that we can help more veterans. And organically, we're adding 70 to 100 members a week. Wow. And it's, like I said, we don't have a big marketing budget, but it's through programs like these and press releases by our chapters that help get the words out and help save lives, that we help people find a passion, get their new purpose for their life after service. And that is what's going to stop the thoughts of suicide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, thank you.
Well, thank you.